Thanks for tuning in to the Mission Matters podcast, where we feature successful, mission-driven leaders committed to creating a positive change in the world. Our mission with this channel is to inspire other leaders by providing industry insights, new ideas, and inspiring stories from the pros.
All right. Hello, everyone. Paul Feith here, host of this show where I talk with leaders heading up mission-focused organizations, always leading from the heart and making a difference in their communities. And who know better to make that difference in their community is Hope's Front Door Mission, Janell Robinson, who I'm very glad to have with us. Thank you for joining us, Janell.
Thank you.
I want to just put a little plug in here real quick, though. The episode is sponsored by Gregory Media, who is a certified B Corporation. So to learn more about what a B Corporation is, or to find out how Paul Gregory Media can help a nonprofit organization, visit paulgregorymedia.com. So back to Janell. She is passionate about advocating civic engagement, ensuring people have an economic and healthcare resources needed to improve their quality of life. She has over 18 years. I think we just celebrate our 18th, we just celebrate our 18th anniversary. So 18 years is a long time.
Yeah.
So you have 18 years experience in the human service, nonprofit industry and management. And I love this, a skilled fundraiser. That's a very, very definitive adjective, right? Because who doesn't want to be skilled in fundraising? Because what nonprofit doesn't need funds, right?
Right.
So thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. I love what I do. And so I am always willing and passionate and to talk about, the work of that nonprofits do in the community. I think nonprofits are just an integral part of making sure that a community stays healthy. And the work
Indeed.
is often important, but not always acknowledged the way I think it should be. So,
well, let me do that right now, because I have never met a nonprofit executive director who didn't have 40 balls juggling in the air, and who would want to do that job, really. And so I think it has to be fueled by passion. And so I just admire so much executive directors leading up nonprofits to juggle all those balls and to make a difference in their community. So kudos to you for taking that challenge on, because it is a really big ask of anyone.
Well, it is, but like I said, I'm very passionate about what I do. And part of that is just how I was raised. I was raised with parents who were philanthropic. And I don't think that I realized at the time that that's what they were doing. They volunteered their time. I saw them doing that. I saw them, giving money. I saw them advocating for causes. And so I really feel like that's something that's been ingrained in me, and why I have naturally, throughout whatever activities or career that I've been involved in, have wanted to make sure that, I'm making things better for people.
Wow, so that's always been part of your life then, really, right?
It really has been. And like I said, we never really put a term on it. It's just what you do. And so what my parents did naturally, I do professionally. And then I also, volunteer a lot of my time doing other things as well, related to helping the community out. But it's really been ingrained in me. And again, didn't realize that that's something that I also passed down to my boys that they're doing now, whether it's through volunteerism or through their professional lives. So I think of it as our legacy of giving back to the community and being involved.
That is so rich. I mean, I'm a little jealous because I didn't start volunteering until late in life, in my 40s, late 40s, actually. So, and I was actually with Giving DuPage, was my first volunteer experience. I was on their marketing committee some 15 years ago. So a little bit jealous that you've kind of instilled that in your boys and early in life, and your parents instilled that in you. What led you to where you are now, which is Hope's Front Door? What was your career and what led up to that?
Well, I came to Hope's Front Door really fairly early in my career. Prior to that, I did a lot with journalism, and one of my jobs in journalism was with Arkansas State Press, and that was an organization, a newspaper that had originally been owned by Daisy Bates. And if anyone's familiar with her, she was with the NAACP. She led the integration of the Little Rock Nine. And so the history of that newspaper, of telling the story of marginalized communities, Black communities in Arkansas, telling their stories and advocating for change, I think also pushed me along to not only tell those stories, but look at the issues that were impacting lives and to see how I can be part of making things better. So that's really how I ended up at Hope's Front Door and being with the organization for many years and starting out with it and then also being part of the growth of the organization.
Wow. So you've been involved in philanthropy and nonprofit organizations pretty much your whole career.
Yeah, pretty much my whole career. Yes.
Wow. Well, then tell us about Hope's Front Door. What are the programs and services that Hope's Front Door offers? Who are the beneficiaries?
Yeah. So Hope's Front Door, really, the services fall under two umbrellas. And one is safety net services, and that could be access to food, transportation, medication, oral health care, vision, healthcare. And, then we provide toiletry items, infant care items, feminine hygiene items, because, often many of the people that are coming in are unemployed, underemployed, experiencing homelessness, or senior citizens or people living with a disability that have limited resources. So we want to meet those most pressing needs that many people in DuPage County would not even think about, that maybe there's some people who are experiencing food insecurity, or maybe some things that you don't think about. And like some of the job seekers, maybe they're not able to actually even get a job because they can't get to the interview. So if we're providing help with transportation, and those things. And then once we meet those immediate needs, then we can talk about long-term solutions. And that's where some of our other programs come into play. So we have a financial literacy program called Pathways to Financial Health. That is a 9-month program. Part of that program, it really sets a foundation for financial skill building, savings, budgeting, just even as drilling down as deep as, what is your attitude about money? What did you see your parents or your guardians do? And are there things that you're carrying over into your life now, that good habits, bad habits that you've seen? And it's a 9-month program, but part of that is a savings component, regardless of past credit history. Participants are, if they're in the position to, are able to open up a savings account. And we have 10 banks that work with us, whether that's providing one-on-one counseling or the workshops. And their participants are allowed to open up accounts. Anything that they save during a 6-month period, up to $40, we will match. And the idea is to create healthy saving habits. Even if it's $5, put it in the account. We'll match that $5 that month. So by the end of the time period, we help them open it up with $25. If they have saved throughout that full 6 months, they get an additional like $25 a bonus. So they can really have about $265 at the end of that 6 months, because we know America, it's just, most Americans don't have that $400 to meet an emergency need. So the idea is create, healthy saving habits, and then help them have something to fall back on. And then we have our Pathways to Employment program, which is really promoting job readiness, working with HR professionals, hiring, supervisors, managers, to give our participants a really drilled down, again, view of what it looks like to what businesses are looking for to hire. How to leverage the job that maybe you don't necessarily want, that's an entry level, to get you where you want to be. And once you get the job, keep the job. How do you keep that job? How do you move up to where you want to be? And then lastly, we have our Pathways to Wellbeing program, and it really looks at mental, emotional, and physical health. About 40% of our clients have a chronic illness. So we address issues like diabetes, like high blood pressure, those things, to empower people, give them the resources to maintain their health, because often ill health can be connected to household stability. So that's all the things that we do at Hope's Front Door.
As if that were not enough, right?
Yeah.
Gosh. So we have to unpack a little bit of there because first, just with the savings program, right?
Mhm.
We have to talk offline. I didn't know that was something that you did. So we would love to sponsor and do a match
Oh,
at some of these. So let's hook up on that topic
okay.
sometime offline.
Absolutely.
The jobs. So you have a lot of resources for, between savings, working with the local banks, the job program, and career development and such. And with 40% of them having chronic illnesses, do you work? I would imagine you have to work with other agencies to make all this happen.
Oh, absolutely. I say that every day that I come in, I see community in action. It's not only, we have about 65 volunteers, and we have some that come in and do one-on-one interviews with clients to meet that pressing need that I talked about, whether that's food, medication, that type of thing. And then we have volunteers who have a specific skill. So we we have we work with about 10 area banks. We work with Midwestern Midwestern University and their eye institute and eye clinic. We have Walgreens that helps us get medication for people, Westmont Pharmacy, Westmont Vision. So we're really not an organization without these community resources and people who are willing to give their time. We wouldn't be able to open our doors. And like I said, I think I said earlier that the great thing about our organization the challenge sometimes with being in DuPage County is that people don't realize that there's these needs. But the great thing about being here is that once we get out in front of folks and tell them this is what's going on, this is what some of your neighbors are experiencing, businesses, individuals respond.
Yeah, and you're pretty much servicing DuPage County.
Yep, solely DuPage County,
which is such a prosperous county in the Midwest, right in the Chicagoland area. But it's easy to overlook the need that's there because we work with a lot of nonprofits in DuPage County, and they're there for a reason, right? Right. So there is a pressing need in the county, even as prosperous as it is.
Right. There's when people come in to see us, they're generally about 90% of our clients are in the low income range, and 10% are in the extremely low income range. And often they've experienced a job loss, and they're at $0 to $500 a month. And you know that's how do you do that in DuPage County, because it's very expensive to live here.
I think the cost, what do they call it? It's not cost of living, but livable wage. That's what it was. Right. I think I looked it up recently in Illinois, in the Cook County area and DuPage County area. I think I saw something like 42,000 being the minimum livable wage in the county. Does that make sense to you? Or
it does make sense to me. And we see that every day with particularly with people who are in the service industry, who are trying to make everything work, from housing, which housing is a really affordable housing is really a pressing issue in DuPage County, to being able to afford housing. And then how are we going to eat? How are we going to how are we going to pay for our medication? There are a couple of clients and stories that I've been doing this for years that I carry with me. And I just remember one grandmother coming in, and she was new, and she was from Lisle. And her daughter had just moved in, had experienced going through a divorce. And we were able to help her with food and connect her with other resources within our organization and without. But I just remember her saying to me, and I always get choked up when I say this, but she said, it's easy for my daughter and I to go without, but it's hard to say no to the kids when they're hungry. And you would think, who's having to say no to children in DuPage County when they're hungry? But there's pockets of poverty. There's situational issues that really deteriorate, that people really find themselves in a hole and find themselves falling between the cracks. And the resources and dollars don't always flow to DuPage County, because there is that reputation that it's a well-to-do area. And so organizations like Hope's Front Door and other ones, we we work together collaboratively to make sure that we're not reinventing the wheel and doing some of the things that they're doing. And we really do try to be holistic in how we approach some of the needs of people coming in. So
Our county is truly blessed by having organizations like I have parents in New Jersey and I have family in New Jersey, and the county resources, while decent, um, nothing like DuPage. So I commend you for the Hope's Front Door programs that you have, and the dozens of nonprofits that I know of that are helping anything from low income people, seniors, or Martin. I'm gonna give a plug right now. Martin Avenue Apartments, which is owned by Naperville Elderly Homes, right? So you can get an apartment there that was just renovated, and they just added 90 new units for as little as, I think the least amount is, and I'm almost a little hesitant saying this publicly, but I think $50 a month, all the way up to about $500 a month. So it's subsidized by the county and the state. I hope they just added 90 units. They already have a waiting list before the build out was completed. And I think there's some hope and some strategy being built now as we speak about adding another location. So there are some low income areas or facilities that are being built and being thought about, which is a great thing. And also, I want to give a shout out to a couple of others, Bridge Communities for one, right? Who help women and their children.
With them. Yeah.
And I'm sure you probably either have a partnership or heard of Career and Networking Center with Kim White.
Yes. Yeah. So they're one of our referral partners that we send people to.
Yeah. Both great organizations. So yeah, it takes a village, right?
Absolutely. And, I can't stress enough that whether it's human service organizations or arts, nonprofits that focus on the arts and entertainment or human service, I just think the work of nonprofits really do help sustain community. It helps enrich communities. And again, I'll put in a plug for, I'm also on the board of Giving DuPage that helps to support and kind of advocates for the work of nonprofits. I just think that the work of nonprofits are so important in a community, and everyone has some type of skill or time that they can give back, and that would be appreciated by the nonprofits in the area. So
yeah, we live in a rich community indeed because
absolutely.
of that. And so you guys with Hope's Front Door, I think you're celebrating an anniversary coming up, right?
We are. Next year, we will be 25. And yay. Yeah. And it's like I said, I listed all of the services that we provided, but it's interesting. When we first started, we were primarily a safety net service. And we started because community leaders and clergy wanted one central location for people to go to versus going to different churches or different whatever. And one central location for people to receive services, but also where they could send dollars and they could send volunteers. We're not a religious organization, but we have strong partners in the faith community. We have strong partners that from the county that send people our way. And so that's really how we started. We wanted to make sure people were fed. We wanted to make sure that people had access to medication. And then and to respond to gaps in community need. And so during the years, we saw that, hey, there were people that did not have access to oral health care and vision health care. So we reached out to local dentists, local providers. We reached out to Midwestern University and they responded. And then we said, once we have so many motivated people that come in. So what about financial literacy? We know that that's not always, that is only one part of the piece of having a stable household. Living wages is a huge part of that. But if we can provide tools for people to look at what they have now and what they can do to manage, that would be great. But we weren't seeing a lot of resources for it. So we created it. And banks responded. And so then, like I said, we've always provided prescription medication. We saw that there were a large number of our clients that had chronic illnesses. So we said, how can we empower and enrich them to make wise choices on um, and accessible choices. I don't know if it's always, I think that our clients and our neighbors are incredibly wise who come in that need help, but just having the resources and understanding of what they need to do. So we started our Pathways to Wellbeing program, and we start talking about eating healthy on a budget, that, it is possible. We've taken field trips to Aldi's and with a nutritionist and taught people how to look at labels and what to avoid and what to go for and how to get your kids to eat healthy. So it's we have really grown as an organization, but I'm really just proud of the fact that we've listened to what's going on in the community and we've been able to respond to it or form partnerships with other organizations to respond to it. So
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate too, right? That the food that's not necessarily good for us is the
yeah,
cheapest, right?
absolutely,
Ends up being the
absolutely.
go-to.
And it's a and it's leads to other negative outcomes. The food that is the cheapest and that's the most filling with the starches and the carbs are the ones that are leading to higher rates of diabetes, high rates of high
Yeah.
blood pressure, um, and obesity. And those are the type of things that we're trying to address because uh, for some of our population, these are the folks that if they have a medical emergency, it upends their whole household. It means that
Yeah.
they can't go to work, which then can lead to homelessness. So we want to provide some tools for people to get in front of some of these issues.
Yeah, indeed. We did a podcast earlier with Loaves and Fishes,
Mm,
which is really concentrating their programs on healthy eating and education, which is a huge part
absolutely.
of the diet, right? So
Right.
it's an important part of that work. So I'm going to ask you next, because I ask every executive director this, because I always find it interesting. How do you manage to do this all? I mean, this is a lot of programs, a lot of services, a lot to manage. And you mentioned you had 20 something volunteers, 26 or so. There's a lot going on. How are you able to keep up with it all?
Well, and like I said, we're at we are a smaller organization that has a big impact. So we do have we have a program manager. We're hiring more staff, but we just have really dedicated volunteers who answer the call and help with some areas. But I wish I had like some magic answer for you. It is
Right.
it is it is being as organized as possible.
Get through the
um
day.
but to get through the day, take naps when you can. But it's really just being as organized as possible, getting as many community partners on board to help you with the programming, helping you with the fundraising, and yeah, I keep going back to this, but once people understand the need, they will step up. So it's making sure that we get in front of people that can help us advance our mission. Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, and back to it does take a village, right? With all those community
Right.
resources, but the volunteer management piece of it also, with 20 some odd volunteers is a lot to manage as well. It's
Well,
great that
we
there's
have we have about 65 volunteers in different
65. My goodness.
capacities.
Okay.
So we have a program director that manages those volunteers. And I will say that we are, as we grow, we're breaking out different pieces. So if anybody's interested, we are looking for an office volunteer manager, so that we can focus on some other areas. So yeah, it seems like a lot because it is a lot, and we recognize that, and we're at the point where we're growing and getting more paid staff in to help with this. But because there are a lot of uh, executive directors juggle a lot of there's a lot of balls in the air, and we probably don't get as much sleep as we should.
Well, small organization with a big impact. That's really the takeaway, right?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
many other nonprofit organizations out there. But you see a need, and you fulfill that need. And again, you're talking about people that are in sort of crisis, right?
Right. I
That
mean,
by the time they get to your door.
Right. Often we are an entry point for people who are experiencing a crisis. Like I said, it can be financial, health, and we really do pride ourselves on being able to meet that initial need and then providing next steps. We don't want anybody to leave here without knowing what they can do to help themselves going forward, whether it's
How to
within our
sustain that,
organization,
right?
yeah, or without. So, but yeah, it's I think sometimes when you're in it, you don't always see what other people are seeing. But it's again, it goes back to that passion where if you have someone who's in front of you that is in crisis, you're going to do what you can to make sure you can provide some relief. But the other thing too is the successes. I mean, when you have people coming in to say that I've found housing, or we have a job list that goes out to, over maybe 3,500 people throughout DuPage County. It goes out weekly. And if that job list is not out, we get calls from job seekers or organizations, because it goes out to like Goodwill, job industry. They have a jobs program, and then West Suburban Jobs Council. So it goes out to a lot of different people. But when you have folks who have received that job list or have gone through some of your programs, used a gas card, which seems like such a small thing, but such a huge thing, to come in and say, I got that job. That's that's amazing. That's amazing. Or I've reached out to one of our first graduates of our financial literacy program, and she said, I'm buying a house. She said, when I came in and went through the program, my credit score was in the 500s. She said, now it's in the 800s. She said, she said she still holds on to the discipline that she learned through that program. And she passed it down to her kids, and that they see her saving. So she's like, then they wanted to save. And I think her son went on to go into the police academy, and then her youngest son went into college. So it's not only impacting the lives of the adults, the ones who are the head of households, but it's kind of breaking some generational cycles here as well that we're incredibly proud of. So we see the crisis and we respond, but we also get a chance to see the success stories, and we're motivated by that.
It's amazing. Yeah. And not just touching the person that you're helping, but their children, their spouses, and
Absolutely.
And who knows who else they're passing that on to, sisters and brothers and uncles.
Yeah, we've had people who have recommended our financial literacy program to family members, to like nieces and nephews, to their neighbors, and actually drove them in. So it's word of mouth is strong, and it can be an incredibly powerful tool in making sure that people receive the help that they need.
Wow. Well, God bless you and this organization.
Thank you.
Why don't you let our listeners know what city you guys are based out of?
So we're based in Downers Grove, and we've been here downtown Downers Grove we've been here for the full life of the organization. And so we're always looking for volunteers, as you might have gathered, and we're always looking for dollars to help advance our mission.
Awesome.
And so, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Janell, I've certainly learned a lot about your organization in this podcast. Any parting thoughts for our listeners before we go?
I just go back to, and I probably sound like a broken record, but I'm so passionate about this, that there's always something to give back. Even if you don't have a lot of time, there's short projects. You could do a drive. You can, if you like to knit, there's organizations like ours that are looking for hats and scarves. There's always some talent or time that can mean the world to people. And I just believe that everybody can be a change maker. So, think about that.
To mean the world to that family. Yeah. Time, treasure, or talents.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And I really am thankful for everything that I learned today.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right. Till next time, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Mission Matters podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.